Thank you everyone for joining us today for the Right-of-Way Services Provider Industry Forum. I'm Matthew Fowler with GDOT's Innovative Delivery Office. And again, thank you for coming. Thank you for your interest in this. And I want to call out, we have several team members joining us, highlighting, in addition to myself, Betty Mason from Innovative Delivery will be speaking, and so will Phil Copeland from HNTB as well. And just a reminder for anybody to submit a statement of qualification, we will need to have had you attend this meeting. And so it looks like we've got a list of attendees available here. I was going to say if anybody had called in, we were going to have you identify yourself so we could get a record of your attendance. It looks like we don't have anybody calling in. And just a quick note is to please hold all questions to the end. And we'll now go over the standard disclaimer. Okay, so I will now read this. Disclaimer. At this meeting, the department will provide information about the project's delivery goals, anticipated scopes, anticipated procurement process, and potential risk. Participants will be encouraged to ask questions during the meeting. However, any information provided by the department shall be considered as informational only and is subject to change. And here's the agenda. We'll begin with covering the commercial vehicle lane project, and then Betty Mason will speak to you on the I-285 I-20 West Interchange project, along with the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program. And then we'll turn it over to Phil Copeland, and he'll speak through the right-of-way services that we'll be interested in procuring. So first up is the I-75 commercial vehicle lane project overview. So the project is the first of its kind in the US. It's northbound only with 2 northbound lanes. They would be toll-free and barrier separated. It would be mandatory for the trucks to travel in these commercial vehicle lanes unless they're making a local pickup or delivery, and cars will be prohibited from traveling in the lanes. They begin north of Macon at the I-75 and 475 split and continue up to around south of State Route 155 in the vicinity of the Bethlehem Road overpass. And then there are also auxiliary lanes continuing north to State Route 155, and then again north from 155 to State Route 20. The entire project's about 41 miles long with 4 crossroad miles. And we're exploring the ability to connect into a separate GDOT project, the I-75 at Bethlehem Road Interchange. And we're also anticipating that in the future, as connected and autonomous vehicles become more common, that the lanes would lend themselves to that. We have construction starting in 2024 with substantial completion occurring in 2027. We began work with the environmental process back in 2018. We had our public information open house back in December. And we are beginning our procurement activity next month with the release of the RFQ. And where we see there on the screen today is where we are with issuing the RFQ. We'll have our public hearing open house in the early part of calendar year 2022, and we expect to get the environmental document approved later that year, along with issuing the final RFP in late 2022 as well. And like I mentioned earlier, construction begins in 2024 with substantial completion in 2027. Here's our current procurement schedule. Back in April, we posted the notice of intent to advertise and held an industry forum for the project, followed by one-on-one meetings in early June. And you see the various steps all the way up through financial close and GDOT issue a notice to proceed in the 3rd quarter of calendar year 2023. And I'll now turn it over to Betty Mason to speak on the West Interchange project. Betty?
Good morning, everyone. I am Betty Mason, GDOT's Program Manager over the I-285, I-20 West Interchange project. On this project, we will be improving the geometric design, vertical grades, and operation of the interchange. The project limits along I-285 span from MLK Jr. Drive north to Donald Lee Hollowell Parkway. And on I-20, the limits span from Factory Shoals Road to H.E. Holmes Drive. Going westbound on I-20, we will be constructing CD lanes from the interchange to Fulton Industrial Boulevard, removing all left-hand exits within the interchange, constructing 2-lane ramps, adding auxiliary lanes along I-20, adding lanes along I-285, adding, modifying or replacing interchange bridge structures and ramps, including those over Fulton County Railway and Chattahoochee River. Our project timeline. Our project timeline shows key milestone activities related to this project. A more robust procurement schedule will be shown on the next slide. As you can see, we are currently preparing for the public hearing open house later this year and developing the first draft of the RFP. Construction is scheduled to begin in 2023, and the project is scheduled to reach substantial completion in 2026-2027. Here we look at our current procurement schedule. We have already issued the notice of intent to advertise, hosted the industry forum, and held one-on-one meetings with representatives from the industry. We intend to issue the RFQ later this month, at which time the restriction on the communication begins. Proper communication protocol will be laid out in our RFQ. Statements of qualifications will be due in October. The short list of most qualified proposers should be announced in December 2021, and the first draft RFP will be issued to those firms only. We will follow our RFP process, with proposals being due in the fourth quarter of 2022 and the selection of the best value proposer in the first quarter of 2023. Keep in mind, all of these dates are subject to change. Okay, now I want to speak to you briefly about the DB program. Keep in mind, the right-of-way service providers selected for these projects are required to participate in the DB program. Our overall DB goal is 16%. We will, if requested, assist in identifying ready, willing, and able DB firms. And the RFQ may require a mentoring program implementation plan. If you have any questions about the DB program, please feel free to call or email the contact information provided on the screen. And with that, I will turn it over to Phil.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for spending some time with us here on Friday as we talk about these two right-of-way opportunities. As Matthew and Betty have given you a brief overview of the projects, we will be issuing one RFP. We'll talk about the schedule of the right-of-way RFP later on in the presentation, but we'll be issuing one RFP, but there will be two separate contracts awarded for each one of the projects that Matthew and Betty described. So first, what I would like to go over with you is just a high-level overview of the types of services that you will be expected to provide as the right-of-way service provider on these projects. You can see from the slide before you that it's pretty much the full gamut of all pre-acquisition activities, acquisition activities, and then post-acquisition activities relative to property management. So you can see here that we will be expecting a cost estimate. The cost estimate will be kind of fluid because all the parcels would not be available at one time. You may have better information for some parcels than others, but there will be an expectation of cost estimates in the delivery of the services. You will be expected to review the plans as we develop right-of-way plans. So there will be an opportunity for you to see the plans, blue line the plans, and have the plans finalized for your use. The pre-acquisitions, of course, would include any of your scoping requirements, property management requirements, the relocation requirements, and then, of course, valuation services. Status meetings, there are expectations of biweekly at a minimum status meetings where you would meet with us as the PMC to provide us with your current status of each one of the parcels and the progress that you're making. Right-of-way plan revisions, again, you will be involved in any necessary right-of-way plan revisions, telling us what plans are needed, what revisions are needed, submitting them to us for us to have the GEC make those revisions. Throughout the pre-acquisition and acquisition activities, there will be expectations of you to participate in some coordination meetings with the project GEC that is working on not only the right-of-way plans, but also on the costing plans for the delivery of the construction contract. Offer packages and negotiations, you would be expected to put those together. Closing preparation, similar to what you do on a design bid build project for the department and preparing the closing documents. Again, property management requirements are not the actual performing of the property management activities as far as demolition and so forth, but facilitating through the inspections, the form submittals, and so forth, just like you do on a design bid build project. Relocation activities, both of the projects that we'll talk about in greater detail do have relocations. So you will be expected to prepare the relocation packages, submit them to us as the PMC to submit to GDOT for approval. And then of course, administer the relocation benefits and see the relocation activities through the completion of the displacees moving and filing the claims. Also, there are expectations of detailed record keeping, not only project status record keeping, but additional record keeping that will be outlined in the RFP. And then on MMIP projects, design build projects, we utilize a program called eBuilder, which may be different than some of you all are aware of on the general design bid build program. And eBuilder will be utilized. It is a document management system that you as the right-of-way service provider will enter information into to share it with us, and we'll enter information back into it to share it with you so that electronic documents can be shared instead of relying as heavily on physical documents as you do on a standard GDOT project. So there will be the utilization and expectations of an understanding of eBuilder. Next. The following slide here is just kind of a matrix that shows what typical characteristics could be of a right-of-way team and what success looks like on the MMIP program. So you can see what equals success. Again, at the top of it is an experienced project manager. These are very complex urban interstate type projects. So there is a heavy reliance on the expertise and experience of your project manager to navigate complex urban projects. There's a lot of proactive coordination that is required. So there's a big focus on proactive coordination as part of the success. And again, as was mentioned earlier, there is an expected commitment to the success of DBE participation. Schedule expediter. Again, we do rely heavily on schedules. We do have a lot of contractual obligations that we're required to meet in delivering this right-of-way services. So there is a heavy reliance on building schedules, making milestones, maintaining those schedules, and most importantly, achieving those schedules. Innovative delivery approaches. Again, these parcels are typically bought and under the early acquisition procedures, which are a little different than your standard right-of-way authorization, environmental document approval, and normal acquisition procedures. So with early acquisition, there is an expectations of out-of-the-box innovative delivery approaches of the right-of-way services. Qualified key team agents, again, goes back to at the top of the chart with the experienced project manager. These projects are very complicated. They do have a fairly aggressive timeline. So qualified team agents are very important. And then that goes into the next, appropriate team structure. It's very important. We as GDOT or as the PMC do not dictate how many providers you have to have for each service. We just outline the services that are expected, and it's up to you to bring forward a team that has sufficient resources in each one of those disciplines. Proven responsiveness, a lot of communication. Myself and Edie are in constant communication with the right-of-way service providers on this program. So we do expect timely responses, participants to be readily available, and to be open for communication at any time. These projects being early acquisitions, a lot of times we're out in front of normal public notification that right-of-way acquisition is going on. So we get a lot of inquiries, and we have to really be responsive, not only to the public, but to GDOT and to the other members of the project teams. Next. So following here will be a presentation on the West Interchange as far as what the right-of-way services look like, and then we'll go into a presentation on the CVLs as far as the right-of-way services. So again, right now, as we know, the West Interchange project, the project consists of about 140 total parcels. As we are right now, we are looking at about a 50-50 split with what we consider state proposed, state acquired of 70 parcels. Those are the parcels that this particular contract will be looking to procure your services for. So it will include approximate quantity of about 70 parcels, and those are identified as state proposed, state acquired. There's a balance of 70 parcels that we would not be involved with in this particular contract. Those will be parcels that will be left for the developer to acquire post-award to the developer. So again, this project is set up with about a 50-50 split, with 70 state proposed, state acquired, and 70 state proposed, developer acquired. Those numbers could change as concepts develop and progress, and we may increase our quantities to be able to accommodate any increases in the project. Now, for a brief overview of what those 70 parcels of the state proposed, state acquired look like. Again, it is approximately 70 parcels that will be included in the RFP. So you'll see in the RFP quantity tables that will be based on a quantity of 70, and then different categories based on multipliers of the 70 parcels. The types of properties that are impacted on the West Interchange include residential, industrial, and commercial impacts. And you could see from Betty's presentation that there are some railroads that we impact. We do cross the Chattahoochee River with that project. So again, there are some fairly interesting dynamics on that. Six Flags Amusement Park is in the area. So you've got a lot of kind of interesting properties on this that could be included in those 70, and just be aware of that they are fairly complex, sophisticated properties. Some of the residential properties are in older historic neighborhoods. That is the reason we are setting the contract up, where of the 70 parcels, there are 23 pre-NEPA early acquisitions. So for a parcel to qualify for early acquisition, it cannot be a 4F eligible property. So since these are some historical neighborhoods, we're having to postpone a portion of these parcels post-NEPA. So again, as was presented in the schedule, after NEPA, we'll be able to ramp up the additional 47 parcels, even though they are being acquired by the department as state proposed, state acquired. So again, 23 pre-NEPA early acquisitions, 47 post-NEPA acquisitions. Emphasis on this is these parcels will kind of come in various batches. You won't get all 70 up front. They won't necessarily come in batches of 23 or 47. There'll be batches that will slowly build, but just recognize that those 47 will come later in the process, but still within this contract. There's not a large number of displacements on this project as we know it right now. There is approximately 3 possible displacements. A couple of them, as we know them today, are residential displacements, single family residential displacements, and then a commercial displacement. Again, we'll get into that a little bit further as we talk, but just recognize that you will have both types of displacement relocation services. We'll go over in a minute what we know to be the partial list as of today, but again, that is fluid. The anticipated time for this project is based on a contractual commitment that will be included in the developer RFP that will extend beyond letting to the developer. And it is anticipated to be about 22 to 24 months in duration. So again, your resources would be anticipated to be needed and available to the department for a period of 22 to 24 months. That could change depending on how quickly these early acquisitions go. The contract will certainly be longer than 24 months, but the heavy lift in your services would be needed primarily in a 22 to 24 month period. The proposals, as I mentioned earlier, each project is going to be awarded separately, but the proposals will not only be evaluated on price, but they will also be evaluated on your technical approach, including your team structure, your team members. The exact breakdown of that scoring will be included in the RFP. How much will be based on price and how much will be based on your technical approach. Again, as Betty mentioned, there is an expectation of DBE participation. There are DBE goals identified in the, will be identified in the RFP. One of the questions we get on MMIP projects centers around conflict of interest. And at this point, we are not able to address a specific conflict of interest because we don't have contractual obligations yet. But what we would recommend, if as a right-of-way service provider, you have concerns about conflict of interest, please refer to the GDOT Design Build Manual for more info on potential conflicts, how those conflicts should be reported, and how they should be managed. The following bullet is a link to the project website. And on the project website, since we have conducted the PIOH, there are PIOH displays that you can view to see what the parcels look like and the potential impacts and kind of what the characteristic makeups are of the area. So if you are interested in pursuing these contracts, I would encourage you to go to the PIOH layouts and look at them so you can kind of get a better understanding of the types and locations of the potential parcels that you'll be acquiring. The following slide includes the actual list of 70 parcels that we have preliminarily identified as the 70 parcels that you would potentially be acquiring as the state proposed, state acquired. You can see it's kind of broke up into 3 parcel lists running from top to bottom, left to right. And you can see over on the far left a parcel number. That parcel number coincides with the parcel number that is currently on the PIOH layouts. Those parcel numbers may change as we move through plan development, but right now you can at least go look and see parcel 1, look at the PIOH layout and see what parcel 1 was identified as at the PIOH. So you can see the left-hand column includes those 23 parcels that we'll be able to acquire under early acquisition pre-NEPA approval. Again, you can see that they range in property types and they also range in complexities, whereas there are the potential of some relocations in there. Again, all relocations on the project may not be a component of your assignment, but could potentially be. The next 2 columns on the right-hand side are those 47 parcels that I mentioned that fall within historic districts that would be part of your delivery, but would have to wait till post-NEPA decision. That doesn't mean that we wouldn't be able to perform or expect you to be performing the pre-acquisition activities pre-NEPA and have it ready to initiate negotiations once we get the NEPA decision. So again, you can see a breakdown of 2 columns there that run from parcel 18 and conclude with parcel 96. Those properties you can see are primarily made up of the residential property type because, again, they fall within historic districts, but you can also see that there are an array of different types. You can see a school, you can see a church, you can see several government use type properties. So again, this is not the exact list that will ultimately be awarded, but it is a fair representation of the types of properties that you would be expected to deliver. Next. All righty, we'll move on now to the I-75 commercial vehicle lane projects. This presentation will be very similar to the one that you just saw on the West Interchange. Again, this project, as Matthew talked about, runs from basically the I-475 and I-75 split in Bibb County up to 155 in Henry County. The parcels will be located along the full corridor. They may be some down toward the southern end, some at the northern end, and some in between. So again, it's a long corridor that you would be expected to have your resources work within. As we know that project today, it is about 190 total parcels. This project is a little bit different in the breakdown. You can see this one is actually broke down in a 75% state proposed, state acquired, and 25% for the state proposed developer acquired. So again, with that breakdown, this contract would include approximately 142 parcels that the right-of-way service provider would be expected to deliver, with about 48 parcels that would be left for the developer to deliver once they're on board. Next. All right, a little bit more detail on the project dynamics. Again, as I mentioned, approximately 142 parcels to be included in this RFP. They include residential, industrial, and agricultural and commercial impacts. Again, with this long corridor, there are quite a few agricultural tracts. And also within these tracts, there are several billboards that could potentially be impacted, cell towers that could potentially be impacted, and even TV towers that could be impacted. Again, the level of impacts, we don't know yet exactly. A cell tower, for instance, the cell tower itself could possibly be impacted, or as simply as having to adjust some of the infrastructure that supports it, or possibly the guys that support it. Same thing with the TV towers. The billboards, a lot of the billboards will be impacted, can be adjusted and moved outside the acquisition area. Some of them may not be able to be adjusted and moved outside and have to actually be removed completely. So again, there's a large presence of billboards along this corridor for any of you all that travel it. And again, there are several TV towers and cell towers. This project, we anticipate to have between 3 and 5 parcels that include displacements. Those include residential, commercial, and hotel. When I say 3 to 5 parcel with possible displacements, inside those parcels, there could be multiple displacees. So again, don't take 3 to 5 to indicate a real light relocation expectation, because the hotel that is noted there, if the hotel is identified as one of the 142 parcels, it operates as kind of an extended stay facility. So there could be 20 to 30 units inside that hotel that are displaced. So just want to make sure that you're all aware of that you don't say, oh, that's a light relocation expectation, and then find out that it's substantially larger due to the component of the parcel itself. The parcel list has not been developed yet. As I presented to you there on the West Interchange, we have been able to get further along and actually develop the parcel list on it. This particular project, we're just in the beginning stages of trying to strategically identify these 142 parcels. So we don't really have the parcel list available now, but we will by the time the RFP is awarded, the contract is awarded, but we don't have that to share with you at this point. This contract is anticipated to be a little bit longer than the previous one. Again, not only because of the quantity of the parcels, but also just because of the project schedule allows us a little bit more leniency in the duration. So again, we've got it identified as possibly a 30 to 36 month duration, which would probably carry you through somewhere around Q4 of 2024. So as you're developing your resources and considering your project schedule, your team development, keep in mind that there would be an anticipation of those resources needing to be available for 30 to 36 months. Again, the contract will extend outside that window just for contractual reasons, but the heavy lift would probably be concluded within a 30 to 36 month duration. Again, as I spoke earlier, this contract will be awarded with a evaluation of your price and your technical proposal. Again, the ratio, the percentage of that will be outlined in the RFP when posted. This project will also include the same DBE goals and expectations. And again, any conflict of interest questions you may have, we would ask that you refer to the GDOT design manual for that. This URL that you see on the screen is a URL directly to the I-75 commercial vehicle lanes project, where again, you can look at the PIOH layouts again to try to get a better understanding of the corridor and the impacts, because you do have some sections that may not have impacts where we skip, and then you have sections where we do have impacts on such a long corridor. So please visit the project website, get more information on the project, but most importantly, the PIOH displays are available for you there. Next. All right, the team requirements. This would be the expectations on both of the projects. The reason I've saved it for last is because it is the same. Again, in order to deliver those types of services that were outlined on the very first screen, you can see that the team would be expected to have pretty much the full type of right-of-way disciplines for delivery all the way from pre-act to post-act services. Again, appraisal reports would be your responsibility. Cost to cure reports would be your responsibility. Trade fixture reports, sign reports. Again, the detailed right-of-way cost estimate. Again, that information changes as more information becomes available, but ultimately it does require the detailed cost estimator, not the preliminary. Right-of-way project manager, again, pre-acquisition manager, acquisition manager. Negotiating to close, again, not only relocation negotiations, but also relocation benefits packages. Please note in here that there are no condemnation coordinator support services or administrative review officer services. Those will remain with the department. So these are the right-of-way disciplines that you would need to make sure your proposal includes. Keep in mind, as I mentioned earlier, we do not outline or identify the number of each one of those resources. That is up to you as the potential provider of the services to make sure you feel like you have a team that is sufficient in size, experience to be able to deliver the contract. Next. All right, the schedule for this procurement. Again, each project to be awarded as a separate contract, even though you will see one RFP posted. Inside that RFP, there will be a contract 1 for West Interchange and a contract 2 for CVLs or vice versa, but there will be a opportunity for you to bid separately on both projects. It doesn't mean that they will be awarded to 2 individual firms. You will be eligible to go after both firms depending on your resources and the score. You could possibly be awarded both, but they will be awarded separately. Again, the P&A has obviously already gone out. That's why we're here today. The industry forum is what we're doing today. And we plan to issue, GDOT plans to issue the RFP August the 9th of 2021 with the proposals due September 9th of 2021 with an anticipated award to the right-of-way service provider of 2021. So again, keep in mind the durations of those two contracts and how they pivot off of the November 2021 potential award. Next. All right, we will open it up now for any questions that you all may have. What we are asking on this one, if you would, is if you have a question, again, there is a question and answer feature in the toolbar at the bottom of your screen. We would ask that you click on that and submit your questions, and then a member of the staff will read the question, and either I, Betty, or Matthew, the appropriate party, will answer your questions. If you have joined us on audio only or experiencing challenges with this feature, you can email your questions to the email address listed there, and we'll respond to you at a later time. Thank you. Amanda Parham will manage the question and answer feature. So any questions that get entered, she will read them aloud, and then we will attempt to answer them.
All right, thank you, Phil. So far, we have no questions in the question and answer box.
We'll give you all a little while to queue up those if need be.
All right, we have our first one. Will firms need to be on a pre-qualification list to bid?
All right, that will be outlined in the RFP, but the right-of-way discipline is a pre-qualified discipline. So to be eligible for your team members to be eligible to be considered in your technical approach, they would have to be on the pre-qualified list.
All right, thank you. All right, next question. Can we get a copy of the PowerPoint?
The PowerPoint will be available. It'll be posted on a GDOT P3 website by middle part of next week. So, and we will attempt to respond back to all the registered attendants when that is available with some direction to where that can be located. But if for some reason you don't get a follow-up email with it, just check on the GDOT P3 website. Under each respective project, there'll be, when you go to the P3 website and scroll down through it, you'll see a West Interchange informational panel with some links, and you'll see a CVL informational panel with various links, and the presentation, when posted, would be available there. We'll give a few more minutes for any questions. All right, if no more questions, you'll move to the next slide. Again, thank you all very much for taking time out on your Friday to join us for these two opportunities. Look forward to any of you all that do decide to submit a proposal, and we will look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you very much. We got one more question that's popped in. Let me take it.
It was just a thank you.
Oh, okay. I didn't see the,
Yeah.
I don't see the Q&A. All right. Well, thank you all very much. Have a great Friday afternoon and great weekend.